Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited today. I have a wonderful person that you're just going to love everything about, Karen Cappello. She's my guest on today's show, and she is a master certified coach and a board certified coach as well. And welcome, Karen. I'm so excited that you're here, and I thank you so much for joining me.
Cheryl, it's a complete honor. I know that we're going to have a great conversation today between the two of us.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's start with, how about you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, that's a great question. So I work with new and seasoned coaches, but mostly from the business sector, help them get their coaching business done and up and running and growing. And one of the things I noticed is that especially leaders from corporate, they're so accomplished at what they do, and yet they get into becoming an entrepreneur and a coach, and they feel like it's a completely different world. And really, it isn't. All the skills that they used before can be used in this world, and I show them how to do that.
Awesome. All right. So how did you get started in that? What was the beginning of your coaching journey?
Well, we coached those people that we were, right? So I was a leader. I was in estate planning. Well, first of all, I was a university professor. Then I was a semiconductor manufacturing company president, if you can believe it. And then I was an estate planner. And I say I ruined my resume. I had to do something to bring it all together. So when I came into coaching, brought it all together. And at that time, Cheryl, I was working seriously like 60 to 70 hours a week. And I think many coaches that have come from this kind of a background. And I was completely exhausted. And by the way, I was completely successful. I made the $1 million roundtable my second year, but I was paying too big a price for my success. And I say I only wanted three things when I left estate planning. I wanted to wear comfy clothes because I was tired of wearing suits and heels. I wanted to wake up without an alarm clock because in those days we did not have these beautiful church bell chimes. We had
Yeah.
and jumping out of bed, getting ready. And I wanted to work less hours, which that wasn't hard to do. And I want to do all those three things with living the lifestyle I was accustomed to, because I had a pretty good lifestyle. I didn't want to give that up. So I set out to figure out how to do that. And I became a coach. By the way, it took me more time and money to get my coaching certification than my master's degree. So for those of you who are being certified, congratulations. This is a big deal. People out in the world don't realize this because coaches are not regulated, but
Right.
it's a big deal. And so I left my estate planning job, did my training, became a coach, and I really jumped in the deep end.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. And you're right. Most people coming from an executive or a business background feel like they don't know what they're doing like at all, and they don't know how to get into this. And really, they have all those skills. That's what made them successful in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting. So what inspired you when you have those three? I love those three things that I just want these three things.
That's all.
That's all. But what inspired you to go into coaching to have those three things?
Well, that was interesting because I never saw myself as a coach, although I had been coached, but I never really saw myself in that role. And at the time, I had a friend of mine who was going through a divorce, and she was living with me in my house. I said, come and stay with me. And she had just moved out, and we were talking one day, and I remember she said, what are you going to do? And I had another friend that was listening to all kinds of, in those days, they were cassette tapes, by the way, cassette tapes of self-development people. And she said, you should become a coach. And I said to this person who was a financial planner, Sarah said I should become a coach. And she said to me, oh my gosh, they've been telling me to find a coach, people have been telling me to find a coach for the last couple of years, and I never found anybody I wanted. I want to hire you as my coach. So before I even took my training, my first client was right there in front of me, and so that I took that as a sign, and I went and got trained. But the funny part about that is I wrote a book called The Clients You Are Seeking Are Also Seeking You. And I say my first client was actually living in my house. Like coaches, your clients are everywhere.
That's right.
Like mine was living in my house.
That's amazing. I love that. What kind of mindset did you have? So you had this guest in your home, and she
Mhm.
wanted you to coach her, and then you got your training. What kind of mindset did you have to kind of first put yourself out there after your training?
Well, Cheryl, I would say that was actually the easiest time in my whole entire coaching business because I was so on fire about coaching. I was just, my mindset was everyone in the world should be coached, and I'm going to make sure that if they want to work with me, they will. So I was talking to everybody. I was out there at all these. I'm not a morning person. I was at these breakfasts. I mean, I was everywhere. And so my mindset was I had a lot of passion. When I got out of my coach training and I had all my tools, I was so excited. Now, coupled with my business background, I was really able to get going quickly. So
Hmm.
my initial mindset was very strong. It wasn't until like about year 1 or 2 when things settled down a little bit, and I realized, oh, okay, I've got to make a business out of this. Okay, I've left my job. Okay, I'm not making as much money as I was before. I had money put away, but not for the rest of my life. So,
Right.
so initially my mindset was great.
Okay. So you talked about having someone right in your home asking you to be a coach before you became one, but after your training and after this person, how did you find your clients? What was your process
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, so in the beginning, because I came from estate planning, and in order to do an estate plan, you need a financial advisor, you need an insurance agent, you need a CPA. So I had a lot of solo professionals that I was already networking with, and I already knew me well. So those were my first clients. I just started contacting them. And the neat thing about these clients is, you go into these beautiful conference rooms to do your estate plan. You got everybody around the table. Then you go into the back room, and there's these big whiteboards with all these numbers. Like you had to make your numbers every single month,
Oh,
and
wow.
and so these people needed help, and it was a good value proposition because they could afford to spend some money in coaching because they could see how if they got one more client pay for itself. So that was my first group. And then because I was so excited about my coach training, I was asked to come and train coaches. So this was like 6 months in. So then I was looking around, and all the coaches around me were like they were getting their websites done, but they hadn't even talked to any clients, and doing all this work that wasn't really getting them the clients they wanted. So I started saying, well, have you tried this? What about this? And they were looking at me going, you don't even have a website, but you have all these clients. And now we know, right, that it's about conversations to get
Right.
clients. It's not about your website. But at that time, people started asking me. And so it was very natural within the first year. I started coaching coaches on their business development because I had that business background.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and how were you choosing your niche? Like, how did you um,
Hmm.
decide that you were going to coach other coaches?
Well, that was interesting because, of course, I started with entrepreneurs. So, this is what I tell coaches all the time: start with where you are. If you've had a challenge that you've overcome, like for me, I was an estate and financial planner. Every month I had to make bank. Every month I had to do all these things. So I knew what they were going through. So I started with these entrepreneurs, and then once the coaches started coming to me and asking me, I say I kind of received my niche. They came to me, they started asking me, and I was working with a coach at the time, and I remember he told me, why don't you put this tagline under your signature on your email, the coach for new coaches? And it scared the heck out of me. I was like, well, I'm a new coach myself. How am I going to do this? But I said, okay, I'm going to step up to this because I'm actually doing this on a day-to-day basis. And I
Mhm.
did. And so I made that declaration. And Cheryl, you understand everything comes from a decision. So once I made that decision, I started getting on email lists. I got on a list one day that said they were looking for a trainer. I ended up being the chief learning officer of International Coach Academy out of Australia. I was in the virtual world before most people were, when you could put two people together on Skype and it was a miracle. So, I, I, I started where I was, but once I made that decision to coach coaches because they were coming to me, everything shifted and everything became, I think, really much easier.
Yeah. So just putting it out into the universe and making that decision.
Making a decision.
Yeah. So I find that I find that I see a lot of coaches um, waver around choosing a niche
hmm
and a focus, even like from the beginning, like you said, um, start where you are, because our ideal clients are a previous version of ourselves all the time. Like that's just kind of
hmm
normal, I think, for the most part. But yeah, so I see that if you put it out there, and I think most coaches that I've worked with, if I see them put it out there, then it gets easier. And I feel the ones that kind of waver around choosing that niche, or they're too broad, or they want to go outside their own history, then it starts to get more difficult for them. Would you agree with that?
I would. And people say to me, do I need a niche? And I always say, no, you don't need a niche. You can coach anyone. But if you want to make money from your coaching, having a niche is the easiest way. And that's what you said, Cheryl. It's easier. I mean, I always say, if you want to, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. If I want to go to San Diego, I could take a flight there, 1 hour. I could drive there 8 hours or 6 hours or something. I could walk there if I really wanted to. If I wanted to go to San Diego, I could fly to Chicago, and I could fly to London, and I could fly to Asia, Hong Kong, and then I could fly. I mean, there's many ways of getting there. So
Right.
people who, there are coaches that resist this niche, and I go, okay, fine, it's okay. If just if you want to go to San Diego via Chicago, go right ahead. If you want to see the sights of Chicago, if you want to enjoy this, and maybe you're independently wealthy, or your coaching is a hobby, great. But if you want to make a business, the easiest way is to be niched.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a tagline or a motto of um, I'm sorry, live your life with
Yes,
ease.
success with ease and joy.
I love
Because
that.
remember where I came from. I was working 60, 70 hours. I was successful, but I was exhausted. And this is what I'm set out to find is, what are the leverage points? Could I have success with ease, with joy, with flow, rather than with force and, all this hard work? And that was a mindset shift that I had to make too, because, I come from a family of hard workers. And my dad had a lot of success, but he worked really hard for it.
Yeah, and I think previous generations. You have generations now where it's getting easier to be an entrepreneur and to work in the industry that you want to, versus previous. My parents as well, working really
hmm
hard.
hmm
Those 60, 80 hours. I did it myself, worked 60 to 70 hours as well before I got into it. So I totally understand that. Um, so thinking along those lines, what would your best advice or strategy be for coaches who are building their businesses, but they're kind of feeling stuck or having difficulty getting consistent clients,
hmm
even when they are niching down?
Yeah. So one of the things that I teach the coaches in my Quick Start Intensive that works really well is this power of one. So as we said, one client, one challenge, one solution, and one offer. So if you can really, this is something, we coaches are so expansive, but if you can focus on one, you're going to see a lot of momentum happen in your business. So for instance, let's just talk about the health coaching, the mother who's lost her baby weight, right? So she has one audience, mothers who have just given birth, like in the first year or two of their whatever, right? Of their kids. She has the one challenge is, yes, I want to lose this baby weight, but I'm running around all the time and I don't have time to take care of myself. One solution is we're going to give you a program that you're going to follow every day, and I'm going to coach you through it with accountability and structure so that you're going to be able to do this. And then so the one offer is, here's my offer. We're going to work together for 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is, and we're going to meet so many times, and I'm going to give you some collateral books or materials, and you're going to pay me this. If you get that specific, then, oh my gosh, the lady across the street just had a baby. I'm going to send her to so-and-so. So you want to if you can use this power of one, you can create a lot of momentum in your business.
That sounds very smart. I really like that.
Yeah, it's taken me a while, Cheryl, to figure it all out.
Well, and you said we're very expansive. Like, so we, our vision boards and our notebooks are full of everything that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right. In the beginning, it's, do that, the power of one, do that one thing that's going to help and help you establish yourself, but also help you to gain confidence in your coaching. And you can start to expand by having more clients, working them through that one program. That's awesome. I love that.
And Cheryl, the one thing is not empowerment. It's not necessarily things, even confidence is a little bit too light for people to really understand. It's got to be like a specific challenge people are going through that they really want to get solved, because nobody's sitting up at night going, oh my gosh, I wish I could become empowered. And a lot of coaches, this is what people get. So coaches put this out there and they don't get any clients, and they're great coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well. I think the empowerment comes with coaching in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with that as well. So next question. I love this question for you especially, because I think I've seen it. Just I'm a follower of yours. I know that you know that, but letting the audience know that I've been following Karen for a while. And also she helped me with my mentor coaching a couple of years back when I got my credential, and is going to help me with my master credential this year. So, but when you want to take your business up a notch and just call in more, and I know you just did this recently through a different program. How do you do that? How do you call in more?
I hire a coach who is where I want to be. I mean, seriously, Cheryl, if we're coaches, we got to believe in what we're doing, right? So I did this a couple of years ago. I hired a coach that actually I didn't even really think he was way above my league. And he was, I didn't think I could afford him. Because, I like to pay out of my business cash. I don't like to be funding my business. So I had a conversation with him. He had a group program that I could absolutely do. I signed up like the next day. It was so funny. I remember I talked to him the night before the summer solstice, June 21st. And I thought, okay, I want to start. If this program starts on this solstice, I'm starting, because I'm a little, I got that little woo-woo thing in me about
That's amazing though. I love that.
Yeah, wasn't that cool? So I did. And I got into that program, and he told me that the average coaches were making in that program was $54,000 a quarter. And I was in the 16th group. So he had been taking measures all the way along. And this was not for new coaches or starting coaches. This was for people who actually had a lot going on in their business and really wanted to grow to the next level, which was me. I've been in business for 10 plus years. So I got into that program, and sure enough, I thought, well, I've never been average. I've always been a little above average. So I made like 55 in that quarter. And then I signed up again because I thought, well, this stuff works, because it really focused me. And the next quarter I made 75,000 in that quarter. And then I signed up again. And the next quarter I made 100,000 in a quarter.
Wow.
And I was shocked. shocked. I know. I was saying, wow. I was like, how did this happen? But I will say to all the coaches listening, it took 3 hours of marketing per day. So it was a
Wow.
lot. It was a huge intensive. And, but it brought me up. So after that, I thought, I'm going to create my own groups, but I'm going to do them a little differently. So we all do this, right? I added in the things I wanted that weren't in that group, and I subtracted the things that I didn't really like, and I created my own program. And my program was about half that much because I was working with an audience. I feel like I'm kind of like intermediate level of coaches. So they have a few things going on. They've
Mhm.
got, they know their niche. They know, they have a little bit of an idea of their offer. And I just take them to the next level. I'm not working with $1 million coaches, and I'm not working with starters. I'm pretty much in the middle. And we've had some incredible results because those coaches wanted to grow and I was where they wanted to be. So they hired me. So, sometimes people say, oh, coaches, it's like this multi-level scheme or something like that.
I
But
just heard that.
really, right. And but the thing is, it's not exactly that way because we're all doing different things. We're out there transforming lives. And I really do believe that every coach, if you're coaching others, you really need to have a coach yourself and be humble and be courageous and take those risks that you're asking other people to take and come, with your own honest limiting beliefs and get those cleared. So when I want to go to the next level, I hire another coach that is at a higher level.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. But I did just hear that the other day that the reason why coaching is successful is because coaches hire their own coaches. But to me, it's the same thing as having a manager or a supervisor,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have those in your company. And I think people need to kind of just see that connection. Um, but I love that when you want to call in more, you just go out there and you find somebody that's where you want to be. And that's
Yeah.
a person that helps coaches you and mentors you to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Um, Now, quick question on kind of the opposite. When you feel like you're having a hard time, you're not making any headway, or you're not getting to where you want to be, what do you do there?
Okay, so I'm going to give the same answer to start with, and I'll give you another one. But the same, I go to my coach and I get a coaching session. In fact, last weekend, I was really stuck on something. I mean, I was super stuck and I wasn't sure what to do. And there was a lot at stake. And I actually reached out to a coaching colleague who was my trainer. And I said, do you have time for, a quick coaching session? And because it was the weekend and I knew her well. And she said, sure. And so we got on the phone and she asked me a bunch of questions and everything became very clear. And then the funny thing is I took action based upon what she said, but something came out of the blue that changed the whole situation. And I find this is so true in coaching, Cheryl. So this is kind of the other thing I do is I work with energy. So in addition to being coached, I really did kind of get quiet. I did meditation. I really got into what my true self wanted to do. And then once I made that shift inside, then it was so interesting because somebody in my circles did something like about 2 hours later that changed the whole situation and made it all great. So it was like, what happened? So I think, getting coached, but also getting quiet and getting that inner guidance. As coaches, we say the client is whole, perfect, and complete and has all the answers. Well,
Yes.
okay, so I figured I'm whole, perfect, and complete, even though I feel kind of messed up right now. I have all the answers. So let me get coached and let me take some time and quiet time. And it, it's almost like I didn't have to do anything because all of a sudden, when I made the shift, everything around me shifted energetically. And I know this. Now, sometimes I forget. I mean, I forget it a lot and I try to, do something about it. I try to make something happen. But really, the easiest way to make something happen is to have a shift inside of me.
I love that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you're a little woo woo.
Ah,
But I think energy shift, I think that's I think it's a little bit above woo woo. I think it's definitely what runs the world, right? Energy runs the world and the universe. And so it definitely is going to help run us as people is what I feel. But definitely love that. That's a great story. Getting quiet, meditating and seeing what's going on with you, making that shift inside. um, I can I can relate to that so much that it shifts the energy around you
mm-hmm.
as well, and the people around you. It shifts their energy, I think, as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how would you balance the work that you do for inner work that you do for yourself, the work that you do for your clients, your relationships, that kind of thing? It can get overwhelming for coaches, right? They're trying to run their business, they're trying to get it up and going, or trying to get to the next level, and they're trying to keep their kids safe and fed, and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep their
Mm-hmm.
relationships healthy, and
Mm-hmm.
also keep themselves healthy in the meantime. So how do you balance all that?
Yeah, some days better than others, right? For all of us. So I think balance is a dynamic thing. So I think we're always a little bit out of balance one way or another, but we're, moving towards the middle. So one of the things that I do is I have some rules in place for myself, that structure that help me. Um, I work usually I start anywhere between 8 and 9 a.m. and I'm done by 3 p.m. And in any kind of client delivery or meetings as such, at 3 p.m. I take an hour to go through all my emails, clear my desk, and make sure everything's done. And then by about 4 o'clock, I'm out of here. So I go to dinner every night with my sweetie. So it's kind of a strange thing, but we go out to dinner every night and we relax and we talk and we share. So that's kind of a nice thing at the end of the day. Now, recently, when you're talking about kids, I realized that my mother needs a little more support. She's here in Tucson. So she's had some appointments for certain things, for the house, for her health. And I've decided in start of this year that I'm dedicating Thursdays. I'm keeping an open day for her in case she needs an appointment. Now, if she doesn't need an appointment, I can actually do curriculum development or other kind of things.
Right.
But that put my schedule of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because I really don't do client appointments on Friday. So when things happen as a coach, isn't it great? We can set our own schedule and do our own thing. And so there's a balance there. And my mother is, she would say to you, she's born in 1933. She looks very young, but she doesn't like to say her age. Maybe that's a way to stay young. But she's not going to be here forever. And I want to take some time with her. So those are the kind of things that I think, if you putting those structure in, like knowing my hours, and then if I want to do something different, like, oh, I know, Cheryl, you're going to India.
Yep.
I have been contacted by a couple coaches in India about doing a group coaching program, and I think I'm having a 7 a.m. meeting with them, but I can make that exception because I have all my structure together. So
Right.
I think structure is one thing that really helps with the balance. The other is to understand that balance is a daily, thing, if not moment by moment. And
Mhm.
so I tend to take on too much, and most of my clients are that way. We tend to get into overwhelm, and so I may not notice I'm in overwhelm until all of a sudden I've got like 20 things on my to-do list, and 15 minutes to do them, and I'm in overwhelm. So then I got to stop. And another thing I think that helps with this is to have a team. And I know many coaches, when they're starting out, it's hard to have a team. But as soon as you can, to just even bring on one assistant, for 5 to 10 hours a month, it's to say, okay, I can delegate to someone. As a leader, you probably had people all over the place that we're going to delegate to, but now you're on your own. So as soon as you can, get somebody. And the beauty is it's a 1099 employee. You don't have to take on, because I never wanted to manage people again.
Right.
After I got out of business, my other business, I was like, oh my gosh, I had too many things. So so you can take on a 1099 employee, and a lot of the virtual assistance is a lot less expensive than you might think. So that's another thing to create balance. Right now I have a team of 3. I have a person who does my web stuff and graphics. I have a person who helps me with my quick start intensive. She's on the line. She does all the emails, all the logistics. And then I also have just recently hired a person who is a marketing expert to do some of my marketing. And I want to tell you, I do not like to write. The process of writing is very laborious for me. And he sends me all this written stuff, and I'm just so delighted, because it seems to me like for me to do it, it would take me like 10 hours. And for him, I'm like, will you write this? He sends it back in like a half hour. It's his genius work.
Right.
So get some help, coaches.
Superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it definitely made a big shift in my business when I was able to hire somebody to do the graphics. And I still do some of my own graphics, but if I'm doing a campaign or whatever, having somebody to say, look, here's the campaign, can you make these graphics? And there's a ton of entrepreneurs out there, VAs, that definitely will work for reasonable prices. Reasonable meaning for newer coaches, because reasonable is relative, right? But definitely people out there, and there are VAs out there that are very affordable for new coaches. And I think definitely having that 5 to 10 hours a month as a start can do so much for you. Take off your plate and feel so much more aligned with, you do more of your coaching, because as coaches, we have to become experts in everything in the beginning, right? In the marketing and and like you said, the writing. I'm definitely not a writer myself, so I feel that. I feel the pain there. So when we feel like we have to do everything and know everything, I mean, we do have to have a basic understanding in the beginning. But I also think that, like you said, we can definitely look to others to help out, at least on a small scale in the beginning. So thank you for that. That was wonderful. So we're kind of winding down here. What I'd like to ask you is, what's your favorite book or resource or website, or more than one, that you would recommend to our audience to help them on their journey?
So one of the things I love, the resource is Abraham Hicks, and that is a self-development author, and they do a lot of video of audios, and I just listening to the audios, it's all about positivity and self-responsibility, and it's empowerment. It's complete empowerment. And I am very positive. I've always been called a Pollyanna, my whole entire life, and I wear that badge proudly now. And I think many coaches I know, we're so positive, and we need that positivity. So I listen to those audios quite a bit, and they really help me. I also listen to, when I'm doing emails or something, I listen to these 528 hertz tones, and there's a lot of free ones on YouTube, and it's the tone of the universe, and it attunes the body to our most empowered self, and it's really crazy. So you can just search for any of those, and then I think there's another, Dr. David Hawkins has a couple of really great books, Power versus Force and Letting Go, to be two of them that I think are just fantastic. And one more that I'm going to share, because every time I share it, people love it. Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap, about taking leaps in your business. We talked earlier, what do you do when you're going to take a big leap? That book is really, really interesting in terms of our self-development and about the resistance that we find when we take those leaps and how we can move through it.
Thank you. I actually am going to check all those out myself. I'm really interested in the tones. I think I've seen you post about that before, but I never really looked at it, but I think I'm going to take a look at that.
It's very leveraged, Cheryl. Like if I'm doing emails or creating slides or something, I can do both. I can just put those tones on and do my other work. And I like to do as many things as possible to support me where I don't have to keep moving back and forth between things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, yeah, I heard you mention earlier your new product. Is
Hmm.
it Coach's Quick Start Intensive?
Hmm. It
What,
is.
can you tell us about that?
Yes, I'm so proud of this, Cheryl. So I told you I was in these group programs, and some of the group programs, and I did well, but some of the group programs did not have things like these things we're talking about, the inner game, the self-development pieces. They didn't they didn't have a certain amount of tracking. Like they said, oh, we're going to do 3 hours of marketing a day. Well, I'm pretty fast, so I don't want 3 hours. So I created a menu of options. Okay, you just need to do so many points of options every day. And we have a tracking sheet, and we have a community, and we have access to me, like laser sessions, which I didn't have in my group. So I have this 12-week program. And so those are all the things that happen in the program, but the results are stunning. We've got coaches coming in, and in 12 weeks, we've done 4 groups have graduated already. So it is a relatively new program. I started last fall, and 92% of the coaches in those groups have made back at least what they've paid. At least. So wouldn't that be something? I mean, I consider that a success. You have a whole entire quarter of marketing done, and you've made back your investment. So
Right.
it's happened for free, kind of thing.
Yeah.
A large, not a large percentage, but I would say 50, I have to get the percentage, are making back much more. I mean, we have people making back 4 times. We have people making, one of our people just 2 days ago got a contract, a brand new coach actually, got a contract for $36,000
Wow.
after, and this group, she's in a group that's been going on about 9 weeks. So it took her, she's put in she's done everything we've shared and we've asked her to do, and she's made a $36,000 contract. We have, we have coaches getting $5,000 contracts, $9,000 training programs. So I, it makes me really happy because I want every coach to have exactly what they want. I want them to have that lifestyle. They, you don't have to have either or. You don't have to either be happy in your job or make a lot of money. You can have success with ease and joy. So this program has really thrilled me because we're able to help the coaches really make money in their business. And I know some coaches are like, oh, all I want to do is make an impact. Well, why not make an impact and an income at the same time?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in order to make an impact, you have to have an income. That's kind of one
I
of the things
think so.
yeah. And you have to take care of your first. I actually use the example of, if you're on a plane, they talk about putting the mask on yourself first before you try to help others. And I feel like that is a great analogy for our coaching, that we definitely have to help ourselves and get to be where we are bringing in an income and can
Mhm.
survive,
Yeah.
and before we can help others. So that program, the website would be coachesquickstartintensive.com for them to get
Yes.
information.
Yes,
Great.
and we're doing a bunch of discovery calls. So if anybody's even interested in finding out more about it, go to coachesquickstartintensive.com and just click on the discovery call link and sign up. They're all free, and I'll be sharing content of what it really takes to do this, but I'll also be sharing about the program.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karen. I've enjoyed this, and you've given us such wonderful tips, and I loved hearing the pieces of your story. And if the audience has any questions, they can always write in with questions, and we will definitely get them over to Karen to answer you. So thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. And Cheryl, I want to just say thank you to you for all that you do for the coaches, because I know we have a similar audience, and I see that you're helping those coaches that are really just starting, that need to get their niche and all of their business foundations in place. And I so acknowledge you, because that is very much needed.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and we will be talking to you later. Thank you.